This thing looks like someone handed a jewelry designer a blank check and said, "Build me a road vehicle." There is a design decision on the lower body of this concept, right where the side panel meets the wheel arch, that I have genuinely never seen executed this way on a motorhome before. I am saving it for the exterior walkthrough. You will understand why when we get there. Full transparency up front. What you are looking at is a fictional concept generated by AI. No manufacturer, no price tag, no delivery date. Just a vision. But the ideas embedded in this design, those are very real and very worth unpacking. Here is what we are covering today. The exterior design language, what the proportions tell us about the interior layout, the engineering logic behind something like this, and my honest verdict, including the one thing I would change. Let's get into it. The front of this concept is making a very specific argument. Those angular LED signatures flanking the central grille panel, they are not just lighting. They are a brand statement written in light. The geometry is sharp, almost aggressive, but the pearl white shell softens it just enough that you land somewhere between intimidating and welcoming. That is a genuinely difficult balance to achieve in a vehicle this size. That V emblem on the fascia is doing a lot of work. It is placed exactly where your eye naturally settles when you face this vehicle head-on, dead center, gold on white, no surrounding noise. Whoever designed this understood that restraint at the focal point is a luxury signal. Less is more, but only when the less is this precise. What does that face tell you before this vehicle even moves? It says, the person inside is not looking for your validation. This is a vehicle designed for people who have already decided. From the side, the proportions are doing something I want you to really look at. The roofline is almost completely flat. It does not arc dramatically like most motorhome concepts. That flatness is a deliberate choice. It means whoever imagined this was maximizing interior ceiling height across the full habitable length, not just at the center, across the entire floor plan. The glass-to-body ratio on the passenger side is extraordinary. We're looking at what appears to be a full panoramic glass run from just behind the cockpit all the way back, interrupted only by structural pillars. In a living environment, that amount of glass changes everything. Natural light is not a feature at this level. It is the architecture. The stance is low and wide. Those dual rear axles and the way the body drops toward the lower cladding, this is not a vehicle that wants to look like a bus. It wants to look like a luxury sedan that kept growing until it became a building. Okay, here is the detail I mentioned in the opening. Look at the lower body panel, that geometric lattice cladding running between the wheel arches. In gold, on white. That is not a standard body treatment. That is couture. I have seen carbon fiber weaves, brushed metal cladding, painted lower panels, but a precision geometric gold lattice that functions as both a stone guard and a visual element, that is genuinely new to me in this context. And it ties the gold accents on the wheels and the badge into a coherent thread that runs the full length of the vehicle. The design language is not just applied to the glamorous parts. It goes all the way down. That is the difference between a concept that has thought about everything versus one that just polished the hero angles. The wheels are telling you this is not a motorhome that plans to go off-road. Multi-spoke black and gold alloys. These are statement wheels. Low-profile rubber. The message here is, I live on surfaces worthy of me. Highways. Private estates. Airport aprons. Not trails. Not gravel. That is a positioning decision embedded in the wheel spec. The exterior is resolved. But what the exterior does not tell you is what is happening inside. And based on these proportions, I think the interior might be even more interesting than the outside. Let me show you why. Now, we have no interior renders for this concept. And I want to be clear, this is still conceptual territory, so anything I describe here is a reasoned deduction from the exterior evidence. Think of this as design forensics. Using the wheels as a scale reference, Those appear to be around 22 to 24-inch diameter alloys. The overall vehicle height looks to be approximately 3.8 to 4.2 meters. Strip away the chassis, the roof structure, and the floor buildup, and you are likely looking at usable interior ceiling heights of 2.1 to 2.3 meters. That is standing height. Full, comfortable, not crouching slightly because you are tall standing height. In a motorhome, that changes the psychological feel of the space completely. You stop feeling like you are in a vehicle and start feeling like you are in a room. Based on the exterior length, which appears to be in the 14 to 16 meter range, I think the floor plan almost certainly divides into 5 zones. Cockpit at the front. Then a transition lounge directly behind it, facing that panoramic glass. A kitchen zone midship, where the structural pillars bracket the space naturally. A sleeping zone in the rear third. And a bathroom tucked behind the rear axle. That rear placement for the bathroom is interesting. It gives you maximum privacy from the lounge, and the axle position actually helps with the engineering of water management. This is not a random layout. This is a layout that has been thought about. Imagine sitting in the lounge zone of something like this. That panoramic glass is running the full length of the seating area to your left. You are not looking through a window. You are sitting inside a window. The light quality at that scale becomes the room. Morning light through floor-to-ceiling glass on pearl white surfaces? You would not want to look at your phone. You would want to look outside. The ceiling, based on that flat roofline, is not angled or domed. It is flat and wide, which means the designer likely fills it with either flush panel lighting or a fully illuminated ceiling, the kind that simulates natural skylight. At this positioning level, anything less would feel like a missed opportunity. The wheels are telling you this is not a motorhome that plans to go off-road. Multi-spoke black and gold alloys. These are statement wheels. Low-profile rubber. The message here is, I live on surfaces worthy of me. Highways. Private estates. Airport aprons. Not trails. Not gravel. That is a positioning decision embedded in the wheel spec. The exterior is resolved. But what the exterior does not tell you is what is happening inside, and based on these proportions, I think the interior might be even more interesting than the outside. Let me show you why. The kitchen in a concept like this would not be a galley. The habitable width suggests 2.4 to 2.6 meters of interior, which is enough for a proper island. Induction surface, not gas. At this market positioning, open flame in a closed motorhome interior is simply not the answer. Induction means clean surfaces, faster heat control, and no combustion management. The storage philosophy here would almost certainly be concealed everything. Flush panels, no visible hardware, the kind of kitchen where you are not sure where anything is until someone shows you. The rear sleeping zone sits behind that second axle, which is actually the ideal acoustic and vibration position. The dual axle setup distributes the road input across a longer wheelbase, which means less movement at the rear. You would sleep more smoothly in the back of a dual axle setup than in a single axle vehicle the same length. The bed orientation in a concept this wide would almost certainly be transverse, running side to side, giving you a view straight out the rear glass. Waking up to a panoramic rear view is a specific luxury that almost no production motorhome delivers. This concept, if it were ever built, would. The cockpit is the section I find most interesting about this entire concept, and I will get to why in the powertrain section, because what I think is being implied here goes beyond just the driver's seat. Stay with me on that. But first, what would actually have to power something like this? Because the answer is not what you might expect. If this were ever engineered for reality, there is only one propulsion answer that makes sense at this positioning level: full electric. Here's why. A concept this polished, this oriented toward interior luxury, this committed to the experience of being inside it, diesel is the wrong answer. Diesel means noise. Diesel means vibration. Diesel means a service requirement that interrupts how you use the vehicle. A dual-motor electric setup, one axle per motor, gives you near-silent propulsion, instant torque for a vehicle this heavy, and a power delivery curve that is completely smooth. You do not feel a diesel motorhome pull away from a stop. You feel it. An electric platform this size would pull away like a freight train wearing silk gloves. Battery capacity on something like this? In a real-world build scenario, you're looking at reference points like the Daimler Isotaro coach or the Nikola TRE, heavy platforms in the 500 to 800 kilowatt-hour range. For a luxury motorhome at this weight, a 300 to 400 kilowatt-hour pack is the realistic target. That is roughly 300 to 500 miles of range depending on load, speed, and climate management, which is a full day of luxury travel. That solar panel array on the roof, and based on the roofline, this concept almost certainly has one, is not the primary power source. The technology to make solar a primary propulsion source on a road vehicle does not fully exist yet in a practical form. What solar does on a concept like this is sustain interior systems off-grid. Climate control, lighting, connectivity, fridge, water heating. All of those can run indefinitely on a properly sized roof array without touching the main traction battery. You park somewhere beautiful for 3 days. The solar keeps the lights on. The main battery stays topped for the drive out. And the cockpit. The windshield angle on this concept, that steep rake, the wide horizontal dash, is not optimized for traditional driving. It is optimized for monitoring. This cockpit is designed for a driver who is supervising, not controlling. Autonomous highway mode is not a future add-on for something like this. It is the design brief. You sit there, you watch the road, and the vehicle handles the motorway. That is the concept. That is what this cockpit is actually saying. So, after all of that, what is my honest take on this concept? What does it get genuinely right? What does not quite work? And what is the one thing I would change? The verdict is next. Alright, verdict time. And I want to be genuinely honest here. Not everything about this concept works equally well. What it does genuinely well, the material language. White and gold as a primary palette on a motorhome is a risk. It could have looked like a wedding limousine or a casino floor. It does not. It works because the gold is deployed with restraint, accents only, never fills. The lattice panel, the wheel detail, the badge, 3 gold moments across the entire vehicle. That restraint is the design discipline. The designer understood that the white needs to carry the vehicle, and the gold just needs to confirm what the white already said. What seems impractical? Those low-profile tires. I understand the visual logic. They make the stance athletic and aggressive. But on a vehicle that weighs what this would weigh, low-profile rubber is a compromise you feel every time you leave a well-maintained highway. A concept positioned for off-grid capability and solar self-sufficiency should have tire choices that match. These tires say motorway only, and I think that slightly undersells what the rest of the vehicle is proposing. Most impressive detail, that geometric gold lattice on the lower body panel. I keep coming back to it. It is the one decision on this concept that I would point to in a design school critique and say, this is what committed design thinking looks like. It is functional, it is beautiful, it is unique, and it connects the visual language of the vehicle from the badge all the way down to the ground. One detail, whole vehicle elevated. One thing I would change, the rear. We have not seen a clear rear angle, but based on the side profile and roofline, I suspect the rear is the weakest face of this vehicle. Concepts like this often spend all their visual energy on the front 3/4 and run out of ideas at the back. I would want to see a full-width rear light bar and continued lattice treatment on the lower rear cladding, completing the visual story that the side panel starts. It is a concept. It is fictional. It is AI-generated. And it is still one of the most resolved motorhome concepts I have looked at. The ideas in it are real, even if the vehicle is not. Here's my question for you, and I genuinely want to know. solar roof that sustains your off-grid systems, or a larger main battery for longer range? You can only have one. Drop your answer below and tell me why. Because the answer says a lot about how you actually want to use a vehicle like this. If this kind of design forensics on AI-generated concepts is what you come to YouTube for, subscribing is genuinely the most efficient way to not miss the next one. The next concept is already in the queue, and it takes a completely different direction to this one.